The Book of Jubilees, chapters 22, 23, 24. Chapter 22 goes over Abraham blesses Jacob. Precept and witness to that is in Genesis 28, verses 1 through 9 and 23. Goes over Keturah, and Abraham blesses his concubines and send them away. And chapter 24 goes over Esau sells his birthright for red lentil pottage after running from Nimrod, after cutting Nimrod's head off. And you have scripture references to that, the book of Esther, chapter 27 and 28, verses 2 through 6 and 12 through 16. So let's get into the book of Jubilees, chapter 22. And it came to pass in the first week in the 44th Jubilee, in the second year, that is, the year in which Abraham died, that Isaac and Ishmael came from the well of the oath to celebrate the Feast of Weeks. That is, the feast of the first fruits of the harvest, to Abraham their father. And Abraham rejoiced because his two sons had come. For Isaac had many possessions in Beersheba, and Isaac was wont to go and see his possessions, and to return to his father. And in those days Ishmael came to see his father, and they both came together. And Isaac offered a sacrifice for burnt offering, and presented it on the altar of his father which he had made in Hebron. And he offered a thank offering, and made a feast of joy before Ishmael his brother. And Rebekah made new cakes from the new grain, and gave them to Jacob her son, to take them to Abraham his father from the first fruits of the land, that he might eat and bless the Creator El-Elohe Ahiah of all things before he died. And Isaac too sent by the hand of Jacob to Abraham a best thank offering, that he might eat and drink. And he ate and drank, and blessed the Most High Elohim, El-Elohe Ahiah, who had created heaven and earth, who had made all the fat things of the earth, and given them to the children of men, that they might eat and drink, and bless their Creator, El-Elohe, mighty God, Ahiah. And now I give thanks unto thee, my Elohe, Ahiah, mighty God, because thou hast caused me to see this day. Behold, I am 160 years, an old man, and full of days, and all my days have been unto me peace. The sword of the adversary has not overcome me, and all that thou hast given me, and my children all the days of my life until this day. My El-Elohe, mighty God Ahiah, may thy mercy and thy peace be upon thy servant and upon thy seed of his sons, that they may be to thee a chosen nation and an inheritance amongst all the nations of the earth, from henceforth until all the days of the generations of the earth, until all the ages. And he called Jacob and said, My son Jacob, may El-Elohe Ahiah of all bless thee and strengthen thee to do righteousness and his will before him, and may he choose thee and thy seed, that you may become a people for his inheritance according to his will always. And do thou, my son Jacob, draw near and kiss me. And he drew near and kissed him, and he said, Blessed be my son Jacob, and all the sons of El-Elohe Ahiah, Most High God, unto all the ages. May El-Elohe Ahiah give unto thee a seed of righteousness, and some of thy sons may he sanctify in the midst of the whole earth. May nations serve thee, and all the nations bow themselves before thy seed. Be strong in the presence of men, and exercise authority over all the seed of Seth. Then thy ways and the ways of thy sons will be justified, so that they shall become a holy nation. May the Most High God, El-Elohe Ahiah, give thee all the blessings wherewith he had blessed me, and wherewith he blessed Noah and Adam. May they rest on the sacred head of thy seed from generation to generation forever. And may he cleanse thee from all unrighteousness and impurity, that thou mayest be forgiven all the transgressions which thou hast committed ignorantly. And may he strengthen thee and bless thee. And mayest thou inherit the whole earth, and may he renew his covenant with thee, that thou mayest be to him a nation for his inheritance for all the ages, and that he may be to thee and to thy seed a mighty God in truth and righteousness throughout all the days of the earth. And do thou, my son Jacob, remember my words, and observe the commandments of Abraham thy father. Separate thyself from the nations, and eat not with them, and do not according to their works, and become not their associate, for their works are unclean, and all their ways are a pollution and an abomination and uncleanness. They offer their sacrifice to the dead, and they worship evil spirits, and they eat over the graves, and all their works are vanity and nothingness. They have no heart to understand, and their eyes do not see what their works are, and how they err in saying to a piece of wood that thou art my God, and to a stone, thou art my Lord, and thou art my deliverer. And they have no heart. And as for thee, my son Jacob, may the Most High El Elohi, mighty God Ahia, help thee, and the El Elohi, mighty God Ahia of heaven, bless thee, and remove thee from their uncleanness and from all their error. Be thou ware, my son Jacob, of taking a wife from any seed of the daughters of Canaan, for all his seed is to be rooted out of the earth. For owing to the transgressions of Ham, Canaan erred, and all his seed shall be destroyed from off the earth, and all the residue thereof. And none springing from him shall be saved on the day of judgment. And as for all the worshippers of idols and the profane, there shall be no hope for them in the land of the living, and there shall be no remembrance of them on the earth. For they shall descend into Sheol, and into the place of condemnation shall they go. As the children of Sodom were taken away from the earth, so will all those who worship idols be taken away. Now the precept to that is in Genesis chapter 28, verses 1 through 9 of the King James Version Bible. Chapter 28 in Genesis. And Isaac called Jacob, and blessed him, and charged him, and said unto him, Thou shalt not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. Arise, go to Panaram, to the house of Bethuel, thy mother father, and take thee a wife from thence of the daughters of Laban, thy mother's brother. And mighty God Ahia bless thee, and make thee fruitful, and multiply thy seed, that thou mayest be a multitude of people, and give thee the blessing of Abraham to thee and to thy seed with thee, that thou mayest inherit the land wherewith thou art a stranger, which mighty God Ahia gave unto Abraham. And Isaac sent away Jacob, and he went to Panam Aram unto Laban, son of Bethuel the Syrian, the brother of Rebekah, Jacob's and Esau's mother. When Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob, and sent him away to Padam Aram to take him a wife from thence, and that as he blessed him, he gave him a charge, saying, Thou shalt not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. And that Jacob obeyed his father and his mother, and was gone to Padam Aram. And Esau, seeing that the daughters of Canaan pleased not Isaac his father, then went Esau unto Ishmael, and took unto the wives which he had Mahalalah, the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son, the sister of Nabajah, to be his wife. Now continuing on, back to the book of Jubilees, chapter 22, verses 23 through 30. Fear not, my son Jacob, and be not dismayed, O son of Abraham. May the Most High El Elohi, mighty God Ahia, preserve thee from destruction, and from all the paths of error may he deliver thee. This house have I built for myself, that I might put my name upon it in the earth. It is given to thee and to thy seed forever, and it will be named the house of Abraham. It is given to thee and to thy seed forever. For thou wilt build my house and establish my name from El Elohi Ahia forever. Thy seed and thy name will stand throughout all generations of the earth. And he ceased commanding him and blessing him, and the two lay together on one bed, and Jacob slept in the bosom of Abraham, his father's father. And he kissed him 7 times, and his affection and his heart rejoiced over him, and he blessed him with all his heart, and said, The Most High El Elohi, the mighty God Ahia of all, and creator of all, who brought me forth from Ur of the Chaldees, that he might give me this land to inherit it forever, and that I might establish a holy seed. Blessed be the Most High God forever, El Elohi Ahia. And he blessed Jacob, and said, My son, over whom with all my heart and may affection I rejoice, may thy grace and thy mercy be lifted up upon him and upon his seed always. And do not forsake him, nor set him at naught from henceforth unto the days of eternity. And may thine eyes be open upon him and upon his seed, that thou mayest preserve him and bless him, and mayest sanctify him as a nation for thine inheritance, and bless him with all thy blessing from henceforth unto all the days of eternity, and renew thy covenant and thy grace with him and with his seed according to all thy good pleasure unto all the generations of the earth. The book of Jubilees, chapter 23. And he, Abraham, placed 2 fingers of Jacob on his eyes, and he blessed the El Elohi, mighty God, a higher of gods, and he covered his face, and stretched out his feet, and slept the sleep of eternity, and was gathered to his fathers. And notwithstanding all this, Jacob was lying in his bosom, and knew not that Abraham, his father's father, was dead. And Jacob awoke from his sleep, and behold, Abraham was cold as ice. And he said, Father, Father, but there was none that spake, and he knew that he was dead. And he arose from his bosom, and ran and told Rebekah his mother. And Rebekah went to Isaac in the night, and told him, and they went together, and Jacob with them. And a lamp was in his hand, and when they had gone in, they found Abraham lying dead. And Isaac fell on the face of his father, and wept and kissed him. And the voices were heard in the house of Abraham. And Ishmael his son arose, and went to Abraham his father, and wept over Abraham his father, he and all the house of Abraham, and they wept with a great weeping. And his son Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the double cave near Sarah his wife, and they wept for him 40 days, all the men of his house. And Isaac and Ishmael and all their sons, and all the sons of Keturah in their places, and the days of weeping for Abraham were ended. And he lived 3 jubilees and 4 weeks of years, 175 years. And he completed the days of his life, being old and full of days. For the days of the forefathers of their life were 19 jubilees, and after the flood they began to grow less than 19 jubilees, and to decrease in jubilees, and to grow old quickly, and to be full of their days by reason of manifold tribulation and the wickedness of their ways, with the exception of Abraham. For Abraham was perfect in all his deeds with El Elohi Ahijah, and well-pleasing in righteousness all the days of his life. And behold, he did not complete 4 jubilees in his life, when he had grown old by reason of the wickedness, and was full of his days. And all the generations which shall arise from this time until the day of the great judgment shall grow old quickly, before they complete 2 jubilees, and their knowledge shall forsake them by reason of their old age, and all their knowledge shall vanish away. And in those days, if a man live a jubilee and a half of years, they shall say regarding him, he has lived long, and the greater part of his days are pain and sorrow and tribulation, and there is no peace. For calamity follows on calamity, and wound on wound, and tribulation on tribulation, and evil tidings on evil tidings, and illness on illness, and all evil judgments, such as these, one with another, illness and overthrow, and snow and frost and ice, and fever and chills, and torpor and famine, and death and sword and captivity, and all kinds of calamities and pains. And all these shall come on an evil generation which transgresses on the earth, their work or uncleanness, and fornication, and pollution, and abominations. Then they shall say, the days of the forefathers were many, even unto 1,000 years, and were good. But behold, the days of our life, if a man have lived many, or 60 years and 10, and if he is strong 80 years, and those evil, and there is no peace in the days of this evil generation. And in that generation the sons shall convict their fathers and their elders of sin and unrighteousness, and of the word of their mouth, and the great wickedness which they perpetrate, and concerning their forsaking the covenant which El Elohi Ahijah made between them and him, that they should observe and do all his commandments and his ordinances and all his laws, without departing either to the right hand or the left. For all have done evil, and every mouth speaks iniquity, and all their works are an uncleanness and an abomination, and all their ways are pollution, uncleanness, and destruction. Behold, the earth shall be destroyed on account of all their works, and there shall be no seed of the vine and no oil. For their works are altogether faithless, and they shall all perish together, beasts and cattle, and birds, and all the fish of the sea, on account of the children of men. And they shall strive one with another, the young with the old, and the old with the young, the poor with the rich, the lowly with the great, and the beggar with the prince, on account of the law and the covenant. For they have forgotten commandment and covenant and feast and months and Sabbaths and jubilees and all judgments. And they shall stand sword and war to turn them back into the way, but they shall not return with until much blood has been shed on the earth, one by another, and those who have escaped shall not return from their wickedness to the way of righteousness, but they shall all exalt themselves to deceit and wealth, that they may each take all that is his neighbor's, and they shall name the great name, but not in truth, and not in righteousness, and they shall defile the holy of holies with their uncleanness and the corruption of their pollution. And a great punishment shall befall the deeds of this generation from El Elohi Ahir, our mighty God, and he will give them over to the sword and to judgment and to captivity, and to be plundered and devoured. And he will wake up against them the sinners of the Gentiles, who have neither mercy nor compassion, and who shall respect the persons of none, neither old nor young nor any one, for they are more wicked and strong to do evil than all the children of men. And they shall use violence against Israel, and transgression against Jacob, and much blood shall be shed upon the earth, and there shall be none to gather and none to bury. In those days they shall cry aloud and call and pray, that they may be saved from the hand of the sinners, the Gentiles, but none shall be saved. And the heads of the children shall be white with gray hair, and a child of 3 weeks shall appear old like a man of 100 years old. And their stature shall be destroyed by tribulation and oppression. And in those days the children shall begin to study the laws, and to seek the commandments, and to return to the path of righteousness. And the days shall begin to grow many and increase among those children of men, till their days draw nigh to 1,000 years. And to a greater number of years than before was the number of the days. And there shall be no old man, nor one who is satisfied with his days, for all shall be as children and youths. And all their days they shall complete, and live in peace and in joy. And there shall be no Satan nor any evil destroyer, for all their days shall be days of blessing and healing. And at that time El Elohi Ahir will heal his servants, and they shall rise up and see great peace, and drive out their adversaries. And the righteousness shall see and be thankful, and rejoice with joy forever and ever, and shall see all their judgments and all their curses on their enemies, and their bones shall rest in the earth, and their spirits shall have much joy, and they shall know that it is El Elohi Ahir who executes judgment, and show mercy to hundreds and thousands, and to all that love him. And do thou, Moses, write down these words, for thus are thy written in thy record them on the heavenly tablets, for a testimony for the generations forever. Now we're going into book of Jubilees chapter 24, where Esau sells his birthright for red lentil pottage after running from Nimrod, after cutting Nimrod's head off. Nimrod's men was chasing Esau, and Isaac curses the Philistines over the wells. Scripture reference and witness include the book of Asher chapters 27 and 28. And Isaac blessed in the land of the Philistines. So let's get into the book of Jubilees chapter 24, verses 1 through 33. And it came to pass after the death of Abraham that El Elohi Ahir blessed Isaac his son, and he arose from Hebron and went and dwelt at the well of the vision in the first year of the 3rd week, 2073 a.m. and on Monday of this Jubilee, 7 years. And in the first year of the 4th week, a famine began in the land at 2080 a.m. besides the first famine, which had been in the days of Abraham. And Jacob sought lentil pottage, and Esau came from the field hungry. And he said to Jacob his brother, Give me of the red pottage. And Jacob said to him, Sell to me thy birthright, and I will give thee bread and also some of the lentil pottage. And Esau said in his heart, I shall die. Of what profit to me is this birthright? And he said to Jacob, I give it to thee. And Jacob said, swear to me this day. And he swore unto him, and Jacob gave his brother Esau bread and pottage. And he ate till he was satisfied, and Esau despised his birthright. For this reason was Esau named called Edom, on account of the red pottage which Jacob gave him for his birthright. And Jacob became the elder, and Esau was brought down from his dignity. The precept to that is in the book of Asher, chapter 27, where it goes into detail while Esau was running and tired and gave up his birthright. Book of Asher, chapter 27. And Esau at that time, after the death of Abraham, frequently went in the field to hunt. And Nimrod, king of Babel, the same was Amraphel, also frequently went with his mighty men to hunt in the field and to walk about with his men in the cool of the day. And Nimrod was observing Esau all the days, for a jealousy was formed in the heart of Nimrod against Esau all the days. And on a certain day Esau went in the field to hunt, and he found Nimrod walking in the wilderness with his 2 men. And all his mighty men and his people were with him in the wilderness, but they removed at a distance from him, and they went from him in different directions to hunt. And Esau concealed himself for Nimrod, and he lurked for him in the wilderness. And Nimrod and his men that were with him did not know him, and Nimrod and his men frequently walked about in the field at the cool of the day, and to know where his men were hunting in the field. And Nimrod and two of his men that were with him came to the place where they were, when Esau started suddenly from his lurking place, and drew his sword, and hastened and ran to Nimrod, and cut off his head. And Esau fought a desperate fight with the 2 men that were with Nimrod, and when they called out to him, Esau turned to them and smote them to death with his sword. And all the mighty men of Nimrod who had left him to go to the wilderness heard the cry at a distance, and they knew the voices of those 2 men, and they ran to know the cause of it, when they found their king and the 2 men that were with him lying dead in the wilderness. And when Esau saw the mighty men of Nimrod coming at a distance, he fled and thereby escaped. And Esau took the valuable garments of Nimrod, which Nimrod's father had bequeathed to Nimrod, and with which Nimrod prevailed over the whole land, and he ran and concealed them in his house. And Esau took those garments and ran into the city on account of Nimrod's men, and he came unto his father's house, wearied and exhausted from fight, and he was ready to die through grief, when he approached his brother Jacob and sat before him. And he said unto his brother Jacob, Behold, I shall die this day, and wherefore then do I want the birthright? And Jacob acted wisely with Esau in the matter, and Esau sold his birthright to Jacob, for it was so brought about by Elohi Ahiah. Now the precept to that is in the book of Genesis, chapter 25, verses 27 through 34 in the King James Version Bible. And the boys, Jacob and Esau, grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the fields, and Jacob was a plain man, dwelling in tents. And Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of his venison, but Rebekah loved Jacob. And Jacob sawed pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint. And Esau said to Jacob, Feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. And Jacob said, Sell me this day thy birthright. And Esau said, Behold, I am at the point to die, and what profit shall this birthright do to me? And Jacob said, Swear to me this day. And he swore unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentil, and he did eat and drank, and rose up and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. Now continuing on back to the book of Jubilees, chapter 24, verses 8 through 16. And the famine was over the land, and Isaac departed to go down into Egypt in the 2nd year of this week, and went to the king of the Philistines, to Gerar, unto Abimelech, And Elohim appeared unto him, and said unto him, Go not down into Egypt, dwell in the land that I shall tell thee of, and sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee, and bless thee. For to thee and to thy seed will I give all this land, and I will establish my oath which I swore unto Abraham thy father, and I will multiply thy seed as the stars of heaven, and will give unto thy seed all this land. And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because thy father obeyed my voice, and kept my charge and my commandments, and my laws and my ordinances, and my covenant, and now obey my voice, and dwell in this land. And he dwelt in Gerar 3 weeks of years, and Abimelech charged concerning him 2080 through 2101 a.m. and on Monday, and concerning all that was his, saying, Any man that shall touch him or aught that is his shall surely die. And Isaac waxed strong among the Philistines, and he got many possessions, oxen and sheep and camels and asses, and a great household. And he sold in the land of the Philistines, and brought in 100-fold, and Isaac became exceedingly great, and the Philistines envied him. And the precept to that story is in the book of Asher, chapter 28, verses 2 through 6 and 12 through 16. The book of Asher, chapter 28. And Elohim appeared that night to Isaac, and he said to him, Do not go down to Egypt, but rise and go to Gerar, to Abimelech, king of the Philistines, and remain there till the famine shall cease. And Isaac rose up and went to Gerar, as Elohim commanded him, and he remained there a full year. And when Isaac came to Gerar, the people of the land saw that Rebekah his wife was of a beautiful appearance, and the people of Gerar asked Isaac concerning his wife, and he said, She is my sister. For he was afraid to say she was his wife, lest the people of the land should slay him on account of her. Abraham did the same thing with Sarah. Abraham said Sarah was his sister, to prevent Pharaoh from taking his wife and killing him. Continuing on. And the princes of Abimelech went and praised the woman to the king, but he answered them not, neither did he attend to their words. But he heard them say that Isaac declared her to be his sister, so the king reserved this within himself. And Elohim caused Isaac to find favor in the sight of Abimelech, and in the sight of all his subjects. And Abimelech acted well with Isaac, for Abimelech remembered the oath and the covenant that existed between his father and Abraham. And Abimelech said unto Isaac, Behold, the whole earth is before thee. Dwell wherever it may seem good in thy sight, until thou shalt return to thy land. And Abimelech gave Isaac fields and vineyards, and the best part of the land of Gerar, to sow and to reap and eat the fruits of the ground, until the days of the famine should have passed by. And Isaac sowed in that land, and received 100-fold in the same year. And Elohim blessed him. And the man waxed great, and he had possessions of flocks and possessions of herds, and a great store of servants. And when the days of the famine had passed away, Elohim appeared to Isaac, and said unto him, Rise up, go forth from this place, and return to thy land, to the land of Canaan. And Isaac rose up and returned to Hebron, which is in the land of Canaan, he and all belonging to him, as Elohim commanded him. Now continuing back to the book of Jubilees, chapter 24, verses 16 through 33. Now these different books go into details as to what happened in between times. When you're reading the King James Version Bible, it gives detail, but it doesn't go in depth as to what happened in between to get to that certain point. So we're going back into the book of Jubilees, chapter 24, verses 16 through 33. Now all the wells which the servants of Abraham had dug during the life of Abraham, the Philistines had stopped them after the death of Abraham, and filled them with earth. And Abimelech said unto Isaac, Go from us, for thou art much mightier than we. And Isaac departed thence in the first year of the 7th week, and sojourned in the valleys of Gerar. And they digged again the wells of water which the servants of Abraham his father had digged, and which the Philistines had closed after the death of Abraham his father. And he called their names as Abraham his father had named them. And the servants of Isaac dug a well in the valley, and found living water. And the shepherds of Gerar strove with the shepherds of Isaac, saying, The water is ours. And Isaac called the name of the well Perversity, because they had been perverse with us. And they dug a second well, and they strove for that also, and he called its name Enmity, which means hatred. And he arose from thence, and they digged another well, and for that they strove not, and he called the name of it Room. And Isaac said, Now Elohim had made room for us, and we have increased in the land. And he went up from thence to the well of the oath in the first year of the first week, in the 21:08 a.m., 44th Jubilee. And Elohim appeared to him that night on the new moon of the first month, and said unto him, I am the Elohim, mighty God of Abraham thy father. Fear not, for I am with thee, and shall bless thee, and shall surely multiply thy seed as the sand of the earth, for thy sake of Abraham my servant. And he built an altar there, which Abraham his father had first built, and he called upon the name of Elohim, and he offered sacrifice to Elohim of Abraham his father. And they digged a well, and they found living water. And the servants of Isaac digged another well, and did not find water. And they went and told Isaac that they had not found water. And Isaac said, I have sworn this day to the Philistines, and this thing has been announced to us. And he called the name of that place the well of the oath, for there he had sworn to Abimelech, and to Uzzath his friend, and Phicol the perfect, or his host. And Isaac knew that day that under constraint he had sworn to them to make peace with them. And Isaac on that day cursed the Philistines, and said, Cursed be the Philistines unto the day of wrath and indignation from the midst of all nations. May Elohim make them a derision and a curse, and an object of wrath and indignation in the hands of the sinners, the Gentiles, and in the hands of the Kittims. And whosoever escapes the sword of the enemy and the Kittim, may the righteous nation root out in judgment from under heaven, for they shall be the enemies and foes of my children throughout their generations upon the earth. And no remnant shall be left to them, nor one that shall be saved on the day of the wrath of judgment. For destruction and rooting out and expulsion from the earth is the whole seed of the Philistines reserved. And there shall no longer be left for these Caphorim a name or a seed on the earth. For though he ascend into heaven, then shall he be brought down. And though he make himself strong on earth, then shall he be dragged forth. And though he hide himself amongst the nations, even from thence shall he be rooted out. And though he descend into Sheol, there also shall his condemnation be great, and there also he shall have no peace. And if he go into captivity by the hand of those that seek his life, shall they slay him on the way, and neither name nor seed shall be left to him on all the earth. For into eternal malediction shall he depart. And thus it is written and engraved concerning him on the heavenly tablets, to do unto him on the day of judgment, so that he may be rooted out of the earth. And that is the end of chapters 22, 23, and 24 of the book of Jubilees. Thank you for listening.